Good evening, everyone, and very happy New Year to all of you. It is absolutely heartwarming to see such a full house for the first event this year. Um, Today, please join me in welcoming Vipul Rikhi and Manjot Chawla on stage. Vipul is a writer, singer, poet, storyteller, and translator immersed in the oral traditions of Kabir and other mystic poets for over a decade. He sings mystic poetry in the folk music traditions and performs widely. He's authored several books, including a novel, a collection of poems, a book of translations from the Bhakti Sufi traditions. And his latest book, what we're also giving away today, is Drunk on Love, on Kabir's life and philosophy. Manjot is no stranger to any of us. She has always been part of everything that Zai does. And we absolutely love her. And we're forever grateful for her to do all of this with us. But just to give you a little introduction of everything that she does, Manjot conceptualizes, curates, plans, produces national and international events and festivals, including most of the festivals for Seher in Delhi, such as Ananya Dance Festival, Bhakti Utsav, Saak Bands Festival, and many more. Closer home, she's been involved with producing projects around Rajasthan, such as the Udaipur World Music Festival, the Jaipur Jazz and Blues Festival, among a lot of other festivals. She's also been passionately involved with the miniature artists in Jaipur, working towards taking the art form to a larger audience through Gemini. Can we please have a huge round of applause before they start? And a quick request for all of you to please put your phones on silent before I hand over to Manjot and Vipul to take this. Over to you guys.
Thank you, Urvi. It's always a pleasure. I actually don't know where to start, but I have to start because this has been such a delightful read, and I'm so glad that it's started my 2024 so beautifully. And it's absolutely a pleasure to have you here in our city, and Vipul, that's really a full house. You have to give it for the people of Jaipur. They support the arts and they come every time in good strength. So that's for them. Just to kind of kickstart the evening, it'll be nice if you tell us your personal journey and how you kind of got that spark when you got introduced in the realm that you do. We all know who Kabir is, we read Kabir, we're always taught Kabir in school, but not much is still known about Kabir the poet. So tell us a little bit about you and your journey to, how you got to compile this book.
Well, it's a really long journey, but I'll give you a sort of brief tour. My first introduction to Kabir happened like for most kids in school. Kaal kare so aaj kar, aaj kare so aap, pal mein karega. And we had a terrifying Hindi teacher who used to scare us with this doha. So then, of course, no child will want to know anything about Kabir after that. So that was the first. Then we did our Vyakhya and our Sankhya, and we forgot about it. And then the second introduction happened when I heard Kumarji,
Yes.
Pandit Kumar Gandharv singing Kabir in the classical tradition, which was very beautiful. And I used to listen to it, but somehow the Kabir didn't penetrate in that same way which happened to me in 2008. I was in Mussoorie, near Mussoorie, and I was trying to write a book. And I was just living there for 2 months, and then I saw this strange notice. I was living in a place where workshops happened, so I was giving workshops on writing and so on. And I saw this Kabir workshop. It sounded very strange to me at that time. This is 2008. So I said, I must stay for this and see what it is. And that was the time when Prahlad Singh Tipania, Prahladji, he's a very well-known folk singer from Malwa, Madhya Pradesh. He sings Kabir. He came. And Shabnam came. Shabnam Virmani, who was a filmmaker. And they came together to Mussoorie. I met them both at the same time for the first time. And Prahladji sang for 4 evenings in a row. And when I heard that, I never heard anything like it before. And I was just blown away because that music is really something else, because it's like a force. Kabir says, "Aayi gyan ki aandhi," and it really feels like an aandhi has come and blown you away. It literally was mind blowing. I didn't even understand all the words because they're in a dialect, Malvi dialect, so you don't get all the words. But the whole impact of the music, it's very raw. It goes directly to the heart. And some of the words, whatever you catch, they speak to you. And something happened. In this tradition, we say, "Chot lag gayi." And that's a good thing. So, chot lag gayi. And like Rumi says, the wound is the place where the light enters you. So, your heart needs to be broken, in order to love. So we keep protecting ourselves, but actually our heart needs to be broken. So that's when it happened to me. And I saw Shabnam's films, and there were more folk singers in the films. Mukhtiar Ali was there, who was from Rajasthan. Mahesh Adamji was also from Rajasthan. And other folk singers, Farida Ayaz. So I discovered there's a whole world where Kabir is sung, where people sing Kabir. And that world was just a totally new world. I got immersed in it. I started traveling with Shabnam and the Kabir Project team, met many different folk singers in their villages, and that's how it began for me.
Oh, nice. Now, obviously, like you're saying that, Kal kare so aaj kar, we all know that, and Hamane ishq mastana, we've all heard these things. But while I was reading the book, it was very interesting because I feel like we don't know who Kabir was, like the individual Kabir, Of course, his philosophy and what he wrote, it's still a living tradition, it's everywhere. But just like he was one of us, he was a person of the world, And of course, all of you have to read the book to know a little more, but he's going to tell us a little bit about the person, the individual Kabir, and his children, his students, the way he conducted his life, like about him a little bit.
Yeah, so in 2 minutes I'll tell you about the whole book. No, just joking. The reason we know so little about Kabir is because very little is known about his life. And there were no historical records, no one wrote biographies, no one wrote history at that time. And no written records exist. So very little is known with certainty about his life. Various legends started coming up. In India we love stories and we love legends. And over these hundreds of years, many legends have come up around him. So we know Kabir through those legends, which is a folk knowledge of Kabir. It's not an academic knowledge, but it's how people remember Kabir. And in my book, I focus more on the people's Kabir.
Yeah.
How do people relate to Kabir as a figure? How do they remember him? In what way do they think about him and feel about him? And so he was a weaver. He wove cloth. He lived in Varanasi by the river Ganga. And he was a low caste person, because weavers are supposedly low caste, and he refers to that often in his poetry, in a very, bold way, because he says, you guys are still caught up in all this caste business, but I found my Ram, I found my Hari. So what have I got to do with all this nonsense that you keep going on with? So he's not at all embarrassed or ashamed about anything. He's supremely confident about who he is. And that's a very attractive quality in anyone. So when you meet that level of confidence in who he is, that immediately attracts you to what he's saying in other areas. He probably was married, though nothing can be said with certainty. Probably was married, had 2 children, Kamal and Kamali. We have a song in the oral tradition by his daughter from Kamali. And there is Doha by Kamal. He was probably born in a Muslim household, though there are legends which say that he was discovered by a Brahmin widow, and so he was abandoned by a Brahmin widow and then found by a Muslim weaver couple. So there are many, many different legends. You can choose the Kabir you like. In the book, this is what I say. There is no fight here. You take the Kabir that you like, as long as you get the message. Who cares about all these? You know, these are all peripheral issues.
Absolutely.
Should I share a short song?
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
So we have this special arrangement with these mics and this extra chair, because this is not just...
It's nice to see instrument finding a chair.
Yes, the sound person was asking me, "यहाँ कोई बैठेंगे?" मैंने कहा, "हाँ बैठेंगे."
कुर्सी पे संगीत बैठे से अच्छा क्या हो सकता है?
So let me sing the song which this book derives its title from. It's called Drunk on Love. And this title comes from one of Kabir's songs called Ishq Mastana. So in this song, Kabir says, "Aman hai ishq mastana, aman ko hoshiari ke." I'm drunk on love. Now what have I got to do with being clever, being smart, being cool, being with it, being hip, all these things. Rahe azad ya jag se, haman duniya se yari kya. I'm free in this world. Now what have I got to do with relationships of interest, calculation, all this? You know, it's gone beyond all this. क्योंकि जब आप पी लेते हैं तो आपको इस सबसे क्या लेना है? जो बिछड़े हैं प्यारे से भटकते दर बदर करते, हमारा यार है हम में, हमन को इंतजार है. My beloved is in me. So who do I have to wait for? I don't have to wait for anyone or anything. I won't sing the whole song, it will be too long. In the end he says, "Kabira ishq ka mata dui ko dur kar dil se." Kabir got drunk on love. But how did he get drunk on love? Dui ko dur kar dil se. By removing the feeling of duality from his heart. Two-ness, separation. Us and them, you and me, audience and performer, man and woman, child and adult, rich and poor, east and west, all these separations, all these divisions. When he went beyond them, that's when he got drunk. Not so easy. All of us want to get drunk on love. जो चलना राह नाजुक है, हमन सिर बोझ भारी क्या. बहुत नाजुक रास्ता है, इश्क का रास्ता. So if you want to walk on the path of love, you have to be light. You can't be heavy. So let's be light. हमन है इश्क मस्ताना, हमन को होशियारी क्या. हमन है इश्क मस्ताना, हमन को होशियारी क्या. रहे आजादियाँ जग से, रहे आजादियाँ जग से, रहे आजादियाँ जग से, हमन दुनिया से यारी क्या. हमन है इश्क मस्ताना, हमन को होशियारी क्या. जो बिछुड़े हैं प्यारे से, भटकते दर बदर फिरते. जो बिछुड़े हैं प्यारे से, भटकते दर बदर फिरते, हमारा यार है हम में, हमारा यार है हम में, हमन को इंतजारी क्या. हमन है इश्क मस्ताना, अमन को होशियारी क्या, रहे आजादियां जग से, रहे आजादियां जग से, रहे आजादियां जग से, अमन दुनिया से हारी क्या, हम इश्क मस्ताना, कबीरा इश्क का माथा दूरी को दूर कर दिल से, कबीरा इश्क का माथा दूरी को दूर कर दिल से, जो चलना राह नाजुक है, जो चलना राह नाजुक है, हमन सिर बोझ भारी क्या, हमन है इश्क मस्ताना, हमन को होशियारी क्या, रहे आजादियां जग से, रहे आजादियां जग से, रहे आजादियां जग से, हमन दुनिया से हारी क्या, हमन इश्क मस्ताना, हमन को होशियारी क्या, हमन इश्क मस्ताना.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to read the legend of Loi. That's how you pronounce it?
Yes.
So Loi is, according to the legend, the woman he married. And it's a very interesting story. I'm going to read it, it's a short one. Loi was an orphan girl adopted and raised by a sadhu. When he is about to die, the sadhu prophesies to a grown-up Loi that she should meet her future husband shortly, and the sign to recognize him is that he would respond to all her questions with the same answer. Loi is puzzled by this. How could anyone respond to different questions with the same answer? But she doesn't doubt her adoptive father's words and stores this information in her memory. The sadhu passes away. Sometime later, a party of a man accompanied by 5 sadhus arrive at her hut and request refreshments. Loi brings milk for all of them. The man divides the milk into 6 equal parts and distributes 5 cups to the 5 waiting sadhus. As he is about to drink the milk from the 6th cup himself, he abruptly stops and puts down his cup. Loi asks him why he is not having the milk. The man replies that he sensed that there is another sadhu coming shortly and that he is keeping the milk for him. Sure enough, after a few moments, another sadhu turns up at Loi's hut. The man hands him the last untouched cup of milk without a word. Loi gets very intrigued by this man. How did he know that another sadhu would be arriving soon when he did not expect him just a few moments earlier? She feels like getting to know more about the man. She begins to ask him questions. What's your name? She asks. Kabir, he responds. What is your caste? She asks. Kabir, he responds. What is your religion? She asks. Kabir, he responds. What is the name of your sect? She asks. Kabir, he responds. Which group do you belong to? She demands at last, trying different tracks, desperate to pin him down. Kabir, he responds, unfazed. That's when Loi realizes that this is the man her father had prophesied about, the man with the same answer to all the questions. I mean, such an interesting story. And you know how it kind of addresses the question of existence, identity, and the sphere of this duality. कहाँ से आए हो, कहाँ रहते हो, किधर जा रहे हो, नाम क्या है, पापा का नाम, husband का नाम. And it doesn't matter. I mean, you have to first know yourself, that's the fight. But yeah, there's a doha which I thought you could read to about this.
Jaat hamari aatma.
Yeah.
So Kabir says, "ए जी जात हमारी आत्मा और प्राण हमारा नाम, अलख हमारा इष्ट है और गगन हमारा घाम." लोग पूछते रहते हैं आपकी जात क्या है? कहते हैं हमारी जात है आत्मा। नाम क्या है? प्राण हमारा नाम। आपका इष्ट देव कौन है? अलख हमारा इष्ट है, जो दिखने में नहीं आता। और आप कहाँ के रहने वाले? गगन हमारा गाँव। तो आप समझिए, आप जो भी समझ सकते।
You've mentioned, you know, how, I mean, we all in the Indian context are, you know, like the aspect of guru is very important to us. And especially in the bhakti traditions, you know, like we were talking about earlier, you know, the guru shishya parampara, the spiritual guru, like a basic student-teacher relationship as well. So, of course, it's interesting how Kabir has referred to, of course, the guru being the guru, but like also that the guru is actually within us, you know. I mean, how we have to kind of find that whole space within us. And this interesting story as to how he went on to meet his guru Ramananda, and you know, they met and they did not meet. Everything is such a duality in Kabir's poetry in his life that, you know, that's what it, you know, kind of makes it more interesting. If we can talk a little bit about that, Kabir and his, you know.
Yeah, so like much about Kabir's life, it's not clear whether he had a guru or he didn't have a guru. But the legends say that he, you know, Ramanand came from South India and settled in Varanasi. And he spoke against caste orthodoxy and other such things. And Kabir was very attracted to Ramanand and he wanted to become Ramanand's disciple. Now, he thought Ramanand is a Brahmin. I'm a low caste Muslim weaver. So he won't accept me as his disciple. What should I do? So he knew that Ramanand goes every morning before dawn to the Ganga, goes down the steps of the ghat to do his morning rituals. So one morning he goes and lies down on one of the steps, and Ramanand comes and he steps on Kabir's forehead and he says Ram Ram. So Kabir takes that as his diksha, his initiation. The Guru has touched his forehead and given him the mantra. Ram is his mantra. And he says, that's it, that's my initiation, he is my Guru. And then he proclaims that Ramanand is his Guru. He doesn't actually need to sit with Ramanand. And so you see, it's again this curious dichotomy. He's self-initiated, but he also has a Guru. He doesn't need a Guru, but he invokes Ramanand in his songs. So similarly, Guru, he has dohas. In many areas, Kabir says one thing at one place and another thing at another place, seemingly opposite. And there is a reason for this. Because the thing is, our mind tends to catch on to one thing and it wants to get stuck there. Abhi to ye bola tha, ya to ye hai ya ye. That's how our mind works. But reality is not like this. Sometimes aisa hai or sometimes aisa hai. You have to be alive to this situation. You can't be dead and you can't be stuck in the past. What was right in the past may not be right now, you know, because the situation is always changing. So he says, for example, "Ye ji Guru Govind dono khade kaake lagu paan balihari Gurudev ki Govindiyo Badhan." So the Guru is so important that if Guru and Govind were in front of me, first I would bow down to the Guru because he or she shows me the path to Govind. But in other places he says the Guru is within you. You don't need a Guru. In another doha he says, गुरु हमारा गगन में, चेला है चितमाए, सूरत शब्द मेला भया, कबहू बिछड़त नाय. My guru is in the sky. My guru is the cosmic sound. It's not a person. It's not even just in me, it's everywhere. That word, that shabd is my guru. And this is the disciple, my consciousness. And once they unite, they can never separate. So, guru is all these things. The mind wants to fixate on one thing and say, this is it. But actually, the reality is much more complex than that.
Sure. You know how Kabir and his idea of this complete religious orthodoxy, like either which way, like he did not succumb to anything which was really the extreme point of view. You know, also I think he constantly spoke about the truth, the light within, and that, you know, the search, the deeper search is there. But you know, I was kind of looking at these two dohas here, which you can perhaps.
Ram Rahima ek hai.
Yeah. I'm like diving into these pages and he knows them.
हे जी राम रहीमा एक है, और मत समझो कोई दो, अंदर टाटी भरम की, जासे सूझे धो. Says Ram and Rahim is the same reality, but there is a veil of delusion within us, which makes us divide things into this and that separate. ए जी राम रहीमा एक है, और काबा काशी एक, मोट चून मैदा भया, और भेंट कबीरा दे. जब मोटा होता है तो अलग अलग लगता है, जब उसको पीस देते हैं तो वो एक जैसा ही है. So when you get to the subtle truth, you see that it's all the same truth. But हम मोटे मोटे में फंसे रहते हैं. So we keep seeing differences.
Yeah. No, this book has so many interesting legends that it was very difficult to kind of pick a few which I wanted to read for everyone, so that kind of every story tells you a little, it takes you a little deeper into the philosophy, deeper into the thought. I know we all try and kind of do a few things, not do a few things, ignore a few things, you know, that belong to the larger philosophy. But there was the legend of the dirty cup, which kind of really, you know, stood by me. One afternoon during the heat of the day, a group of sadhus was making their way towards the Ganga. They passed close to Kabir's hut and thought to ask for a drink of water. Kabir was called out and he was only too happy to oblige. As he brought out a pot of water and some earthen cups, one of the sadhus had a suspicion about the caste of this man. Obliquely at first and then directly, they inquired about the caste of the man about to serve them water. Kabir replied that he was a weaver. The sadhus refused to drink the water from the cups touched by the hands of a weaver, a low caste man. Kabir had a hearty laugh at this response, much to the sadhus' chagrin. Far from being ashamed at daring to offer water to them, this man seemed highly amused and couldn't stop laughing. They grew angry and upset. "What is the impertinence, you insolent fellow?" one of them shouted. "How dare you laugh at us?" demanded another. "Can't you see who we are?" said another. Calming himself down in order to answer them, Kabir said, "The water which I offered you is from the holy river Ganga. If this water could purify me or my cups, how is it going to cleanse you or your many sins? The illogicality of you, learned men, is what is making me laugh." I mean, seriously. I mean, I just feel like, you know, this was all 500 years ago, but this is so relevant even today. I mean, I don't know whether it's sad or something that we all need to kind of go deeper and think about. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like this is a game that has been going on forever. We seem to think that our time is the worst time. I don't think so. I think there have been bad times all along because this is human nature. Part of human nature is that we divide ourselves and we keep fighting. You put two people together in a room, they'll start fighting at some point. We all know this from our own experience in our families, with our friends, and with our loved ones, so-called. So, you know, in some cases. So, this is just human nature. It's just because there is something in us which we have to overcome. Right? So what we see at a personal level, like in families, neighbors, or brothers or sisters-in-law, mother-in-law, sister-in-law, all kinds of conflict, that personal translates to the social. There is conflict everywhere because there is conflict in the human heart. When the human heart is free of conflict, that's when we will be free of conflict. You cannot solve social conflict while carrying conflict in your own heart. You know, it's just not possible because this is what is reflecting in the reality outside. So I feel it's what Kabir says is that there is something within us which is much beyond all these things, and we have to access this power. So let me share a quick song with you, which is about this much larger reality. And once we connect to it, it gives us the power also to deal with whatever social reality is in front of us. You know? Because if we bring agitation to agitation, that's like fighting fire with fire. And that's not a good idea. This is a very famous song of Kabir, all of you know it. Moko kahan dhoonde re bande mein jo tere paas. Yeah, you can join in if you feel like. You can sing along and clap along, even dance if you like. Because you know this tradition, there we have a dancer sitting in the audience, maybe more. She was already there. So, I just want to say, in this tradition, the Kabir oral folk tradition is not very serious. You don't have to sit stiffly in your chair and look very serious because everyone dances, everyone sings, everyone claps, plays music. It's bhakti, it's participation. You are part of the whole thing, you know. And that's what bhakti means. It's not like someone is preaching and you are listening. It's you are part of the whole thing. So if you feel like singing, please sing. One second, I'll use my kharta. कहाँ तू ढूंढे रे बंदे मैं तो तेरे पास में मुझको कहाँ तू ढूंढे रे बंदे मैं तो तेरे पास में मुझको कहाँ तू ढूंढे रे बंदे मैं तो तेरे पास में मुझको कहाँ तू ढूंढे रे बंदे मैं तो तेरे पास में मुझको कहाँ तू ढूंढे रे बंदे मैं तो तेरे पास में मुझको कहाँ तू ढूंढे रे बंदे मैं तो तेरे पास में मुझको कहाँ तू ढूंढे रे बंदे मैं तो तेरे पास में ना तीरथ में ना मूरत में ना एकांत निवास में ना मैं मंदिर में ना मैं मस्जिद में ना काबे कैलाश में ना मैं मंदिर में ना मैं मस्जिद में ना काबे कैलाश में मोको कहाँ तू ढूंढे रे बंदे, मैं तो तेरे पास में। मोको कहाँ तू ढूंढे रे बंदे, मैं तो तेरे पास में। ना मैं जप में, ना मैं तप में, ना व्रत उपास में, ना मैं क्रिया कर्म में रहता, नहीं योग संन्यास में। ना मैं जप में, ना मैं तप में, ना व्रत उपास में, ना मैं क्रिया कर्म में रहता, नहीं योग संन्यास में। ना मैं क्रिया कर्म में रहता, नहीं योग संन्यास में। मोको कहाँ तू ढूंढे रे बंदे, मैं तो तेरे पास में। मोको कहाँ तू ढूंढे रे बंदे, मैं तो तेरे पास में। फिर आखिर में वो बहुत उसका जिक्र करते हैं जिसकी अभी हम बात कर रहे थे, ये विश्वास होना चाहिए। खोजी होए तुरत मिल जाऊं, एक पल की तलाश में। कहत कबीर सुनो भई साधो, मैं तो हूँ विश्वास में। खोजी होए तुरत मिल जाऊं, एक पल की तलाश में। कहत कबीर सुनो भई साधो, मैं तो हूँ विश्वास में। कहत कबीर सुनो भई साधो, मैं तो हूँ विश्वास में। मोको कहाँ तू ढूंढे रे बंदे, मैं तो तेरे पास में। मोको कहाँ तू ढूंढे रे बंदे, मैं तो तेरे पास में। मोको कहाँ तू ढूंढे रे बंदे, मैं तो तेरे पास में। मोको कहाँ तू ढूंढे रे बंदे, मैं तो तेरे पास में।
Kabir and the dichotomy that he has talked about, as far as the idea of death is concerned. Can you share a little bit about, this whole belief during his time that if you're in Varanasi, this will happen. If you're in Magar, this will happen, and then what actually happened?
So there is a belief even today that if you die in Varanasi, you'll go straight to heaven.
Yeah.
जीवन आपने कैसा भी जिया हो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. And and there are houses where you can go in Varanasi to take your final breath, and थोड़ी waiting list रहती है वहाँ पे, तो you better hurry because otherwise you have to vacate your spot and give way to someone else. But jokes aside, and at that time there was a belief that if you die in Maghar, that you will be reborn as an ass, a donkey.
It's very funny, yeah. There's just something very
So, because low caste people live there, weavers live there, so it's a bad kind of place, dirty kind of whatever. So Kabir, he lived all his life in Varanasi, but Kabir was a troublemaker. So he said, all my life I lived in Banaras, but I won't die here. I will go and die in Maghar. To show everyone that it doesn't matter where you die, what matters is how you live your life. That's what really matters. So he goes towards the end of his life and he spends his final days in Maghar. And even today I just went to Maghar a few months ago, and there is this very interesting place. There is a unique shrine there. Half of it is Samadhi and half of it is a Mazar. And that relates to his the story of his death, which is a very famous legend, probably all of you have heard it, that when Kabir died, all his followers came and all others who abused him during his life, they also came because they want to claim his legacy. So the living saint is not very useful. But the dead saint is very useful because then you can make a business out of it. So they all come to claim his legacy. And then he's lying there, his body is lying there, covered with a shroud. And they're all fighting. And Kabir, the legend says, Kabir, you know, India is very colorful, so we have a way of telling stories. So the legend says Kabir himself comes in another form and he tells them, brothers, what are you fighting about? At least look what you're fighting about. So finally they lift the shroud and they look, and it's just a bunch of flowers, there's no body, right? And then the solution is very easy. Hindus take half the flowers and they cremate it and they put the ashes in the Ganga. Muslims take the other half and they bury them and they make a mazar out of it. But who smelt those flowers? Who took the fragrance of those flowers? Who took the essence of his teachings? That's the real legacy of Kabir. Right? So this book is about that. What is the fragrance of Kabir? What is he all about? You know, all this fighting can continue endlessly. But he calls us frequently to his land. Aao hamara desh. In many songs he says, come to my land.
Yeah.
Sai ki nagar param ati sundar, jahan koi jaye na aave. Naihar va humko na bhave. This is from there. So he's constantly calling us to a land without division, without separation, without conflict. And that land is also within us, you know. And if we can access that space, that land within us, then we can rise above all these things, and then we are really able to help other people also. You know, this division also does not exist between contemplation and action, between self-work and work in the world. Both go together.
Interestingly, there's a similar legend about Guru Nanak Dev Ji. You know, like when he passed on, and there was again a similar fight, and then eventually there were flowers. And now, if you go to Kartarpur Sahib, which is the new Gurudwara, you know, there's a Samadhi, and inside there's the Gurudwara. So,
Should we take some questions?
we can take questions now.
Or did you want to finish?
Do you want to go for one or ready to open up?
Oh yeah, one last one. उड़ जाएगा हंस अकेला जग दर्शन का मेला. You know, it was very interesting for me because at one point in my life I heard this rendition by Kumarji on a loop because it touched my heart. But how you've kind of explained the imagery of Hans as in context to Hindu mythology and Kabir poetry. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so the figure of the Hans is very old. So Kabir uses the figure of the Hans, but he was obviously not the first one to use it. It comes down from mythology. And the mythology behind the figure of the Hans is that Hans jo hai wo Mansarovar mein rehte hai. So he lives near Kailash in the heights, right? But during winter he migrates, comes down to the plains. Then, I'm just saying he for convenience, please don't be upset. But then he forgets who he is. When he comes down to the plains, he starts living among bagula stalks, right? And he forgets his real nature. And in Mansarovar, he used to drink milk and eat pearls. This is all symbolic. Don't take anything literally. And he had the ability to separate water from milk and drink only milk. Right? And he used to eat only pearls. But now he comes down to the plains and he mixes with all these bagula bhagats. And he starts eating fish and drinking dirty water. Again, don't take it literally. If you eat fish, that's where you go. I live in Goa and I eat fish. Nothing against fish. It's a metaphor. So he has forgotten his true nature. And so the Hans is us. It's our real self. Right? But we have forgotten who we are and where we came from. And that's why we are immersed in this janjal that we are caught up in.
Now you're going to sing those two lines for me.
अकेला उड़ जाएगा हंस अकेला जब दर्शन का मेला जब दर्शन का मेला जब दर्शन का मेला जब दर्शन का मेला उड़ जाएगा हंस अकेला जब दर्शन का मेला जब दर्शन का मेला जैसे पात गिरे तरुवर के जैसे पात गिरे तरुवर के मिलना बहुत दुएला मिलना बहुत दुएला ना जानू किधर गिरेगा ना जानू किधर गिरेगा लग गया पवन का रेला उड़ जाएगा उड़ जाएगा उड़ जाएगा हंस अकेला जब दर्शन का मेला जब दर्शन का मेला जब दर्शन का मेला जब दर्शन का मेला उड़ जाएगा
Hello, Vipulji. Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. Two questions. One is, like most of these bhakti sects, like Kabir, generally they travel a lot. You said right now that Kabir did not travel much except for Banaras. Is it really true he did not travel much?
No, I didn't say that. I said he lived all his life in
Yeah,
Banaras.
well, okay. Lived all his life. I thought he didn't travel much. And secondly, like all इन सब के साथ कोई ना कोई एक सेक्ट का एक जितने भी इस तरह के लोग हुए हैं उनके साथ एक सेक्ट जुड़ गया था जो फिर स्प्रेड आउट हो गया और काफ़ी आगे तक चलता रहा. आज भी कई लोग हैं जिनके बोलते हैं हम जैसे नामदेव संत हैं उनके वंशज हो गए या
हाँ ऐसे हैं
इस
कबीर
तरह
पंथ
का
भी
है.
है.
तो कबीर पंथ में भी ऐसा कुछ है या
हाँ कबीर पंथ काफी बड़ा है. I mean, of course, it hasn't become a religion like with some other saints. They have now become religions. But Kabir Panth is a big sect, and it's spread a lot in different parts of the country, mostly in rural areas, and even in Pakistan. When we went to Pakistan in Lahore, there was a mandali because when Rajasthan, I mean the whole country got divided, but the parts in Gujarat and Rajasthan which got divided, many villages were left on that side. And they are Kabir Panthis, so they sing Kabir even today.
do they have presence in the south also because a lot of people from south came to north and
Not
spread
that I,
across?
no, not because the language is a barrier, so I don't think there's much presence in the south. Yes.
I would think that being a student of history and Bhakti Kal gave many other poets as well. So my concern is, has Kabir become more of a fad today in terms of his coming close to Sufi thought. And what about Surdas ji? What about Ras Khan? What about Rahim? And if you're writing on spirituality, have you written anything about them? Because Surdas ji's poetry is also very beautiful. One who is blind can be connected with the divine in so many ways.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Everything becomes a fad at some point. So you can't prevent that. That's also the nature of the world. So if, like you said with Sufi, it's a very deep system of practice actually. But these days Sufi is entertainment, you know. People even call me and say, हमारी शादी है, आप कुछ सूफी गाएंगे.
Sufi dance, Sufi dance hoga, Sufi biryani.
Yeah. So it has lost all meaning in that way, right? So and now these days you think of Sufi music as some kind of high-pitched singing, which is entertainment, you know, which can go on in that's not the idea of Sufi music. That's also not the idea of behind Kabir. But the thing is, everything goes together. As Kabir becomes more popular, but he also becomes more accessible to more people. Especially now, young people are now relating a lot, which is very good. But part of it also then becomes fashion and superficial. So both things go together. It's okay, you know. Who are we to sit very seriously here and condemn, you know, ये नहीं होना चाहिए और वो नहीं होना. भाई जो हो रहा है वो तो होगा ही.
Not condemning, just wanting to know about.
No, it happens. It will happen.
You know about Surdas ji, about Rahim.
Yeah, so personally I haven't worked on these poets. At some point if I feel called, I will. But there are so many people, you should work on Surdas if you feel passionately about Surdas.
I was just drawn about your spiritual writing, that's it.
Yeah, no, for me this is an ocean. The oral tradition of Kabir itself is an ocean.
Absolutely.
I haven't even plumbed that depth, you know. Yeah. So I keep meeting new songs and I'm just sort of swimming in that. So if at some point I feel called, I will. And if I don't, that's also fine. You know, this is not in my hands really. Even Kabir, I didn't decide to sing Kabir. Kabir came to me and he said, now you better do this. So
True that.
Vipul ji, yes, extremely impressed with your presentation. Kabir is a mystic. If that is the word we can use in English, I don't know the exact meaning in Hindi, which will translate from mystic. What amazes me is that most of his couplets or whatever he calls them are in Hindi, pure Hindi. 500 years ago, did we have this kind of a Hindi? He was not, just let me finish. We do not know about how literate he was. We do not know what his education was. Considering his background as a weaver, the opportunity for education may have been less, but there have been brilliant people in any group of people. Can you elucidate a little further about Kabir in this context?
yeah, so he himself says that he does not read or write. So he's very clear. He says, Masi kagaj chuo nahi, kalam gayo nahi haal, char jugahara mahatma, Kabir mukh se janai baat. So he says, I only speak, I only sing. And he's very brash about it. He doesn't believe much in reading or writing. Pothi pad pad jag hua pandit gaya na koi, gaya sa prem ka pade so. So he's very scornful of mere intellectual knowledge, and he doesn't think very highly of academic knowledge or book reading. So he himself says he did not read or write. About the language, he used the khadi boli of his time, which was a dialect which was a mix of many different dialects, जो बनारस में उस time पे बोलते थे. तो उसमें पूर्वी भी है, अवधी भी है, ब्रज भी है, सब कुछ मिश्रण है उसमें. और वो हिंदी उसी से निकली है, right? So over the years it may have become a little more purified also in the sense of, because people use it. But also what has happened is because the songs and poems have travelled. So if you hear Kabir in Rajasthan, you will hear him in Marwari. Not even Khadi Boli of Banaras. You will hear him in Marwari. And if you go to Gujarat, you will hear Kabir in a mix of Gujarati and Marwari. Because the Marwadis went to Gujarat and then they mixed it there. If you go to Malwa, you will hear him in Malvi. So Kabir is now sung in many languages. And that's a good thing because now, you know, Kabir, like I say in the book, belongs to the people. And the people have taken Kabir in their own image, in their own feeling, and they have invested themselves into this whole ocean. Yes, maybe.
Hi, Vipulji. It was a great session. Thank you for that. You mentioned earlier in the session that not much is known about Kabir and it's not much is written about it. Just a small question about, is the book, that I'm looking forward to reading the book, but is the book your understanding of Kabir, or are these real stories, anecdotes from his songs and interpretations? I mean, just a thing from the horse's mouth, and then obviously all of us will go back and read it.
Yeah.
So,
So, I mean, that is explained in the book itself, if you read it. Your question is answered there.
Yeah.
But quickly, there are no real stories. There are only legends. So, what I've used is the legends which are popular, and also given my interpretation of those legends. Yes.
Thank you so much for a very, is this working?
Yes.
Your talk was really very valuable to us. I'm just curious to know, how come some people are born spiritual right from the start, like Kabir and Mirabai and Tulsidas and all, and we all, most of us get involved into Maya Jal, and in Hindus they say there is a Vanpras, that last comes sannyas and then you get into it. How come? Is it Punarjanam or what is it in us that makes us there? Hard to answer.
There is a beautiful bhajan which I heard from Mahisha Ramji in Jaisalmer, who lives near Jaisalmer. It says, "Ho mere joban hata bhaj lijiye, jej mat karna veer, vikal budhapo tane aapse, manado nij hale deer." Do it while you're young. Don't delay, because old age is very difficult, and then you cannot still your mind. Then you cannot train your mind. So the time to do it is when we are young, not when we are old. I mean, it's never too late. But, so this idea, I mean, to answer your question, I don't know how it happens that some people are more inclined and some people are less inclined. That I don't know. But
doesn't Kabir, but Kabir talks about that inner power, that ocean that each one of us has, but we have to just kind of get to it.
yes, I mean, that reality is inside everyone. That is, he's clear about that. Inside each and every person, that same reality lives. Whether we access it or not is up to us. It depends on our circumstances. Sometimes suffering brings us to the path. And but the thing is that it requires attention and energy.
What draws you? I think there's something that
Yes,
draws you.
and also there is no divorce between the world and the practice. That's also what Kabir says. Because he was a man of the world. He earned his living by weaving cloth. And he had wife and kids whom he had to feed. So it was not like he went to the jungle or he went to some mountain top and he lived there and he did it. Not like that at all. And he says, Kabira khada bazaar mein. मांगे सबकी खैर ना खाओ से दोस्ती ना खाओ से बैर. Right? So he lives in the marketplace. So these two things are also not divorced. In our Indian traditional spirituality, it has become like that. But we can choose our own path.
But when our mind really misleads you, when you sit to do meditation, वो विचार इधर-उधर आपको घुमाते रहते हैं. So it's very difficult to concentrate your mind on spiritualism unless it is born in between you, inside you.
No, I think it's like practice. If you go and dive in a swimming pool and you don't know how to swim, or any body of water, and you say I'm drowning, and then you leave it and you never go back there, you'll never learn to swim. So you have to keep at it. You practice, and the mind is moldable, but it needs practice. Some people more, some people less. Yes.
We did one last question.
She also has a question.
I am just curious to know, these are oral rendition of his music and his verses. So who was the one who penned down all these verses in a written form, and are there manuscripts of this which can be found in any kind of museums or so on? And the second part is that there is this thing by the UNESCO, the intangible heritage, the oral rendition. So has there been any work being done to bring it into this purview of intangible heritage of India?
That question I don't know whether this oral tradition has been officially, but I'm not a big fan of official recognitions. They come and spoil things because they don't understand what the thing is. And then these authorities, they come and they think they're trying to preserve something, but they bring their top-down approach and they spoil things. That has happened even with some UNESCO heritage sites, whatever, we don't go into them. The thing is, about the written recensions, there were, for many decades, nothing was written down. Then there are three main compilations that happened. One is in the Guru Granth Sahib, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, or some other, I don't know which Guru compiled it, but that is one of the earliest compilations in the Guru Granth Sahib. Then there is a compilation which is the Bijak, which is in the Bihar area. And then there is a third compilation which is in the Rajasthan, Dadu Dayal Pant, they preserved some. But they are all different from each other. And then in the oral tradition you find other songs which are not in none of these three compilations. So, and even in these three compilations they don't agree with each other. So scholars and academics have spent a lot of time trying to decode all this. But in the oral traditions we don't care. We don't care because we don't give so much importance to the written text. Kabir himself didn't give so much importance to the written text. And these songs have survived for over 500 years not because they've been written down. They have survived because people sing them and people listen to them. And the only way this tradition is going to survive is not due to some recognition by some authority somewhere. It's if people continue to listen and people continue to sing. That's the real intangible heritage. And if you participate in this tradition, then you are part of preserving this heritage also.
Okay. So I'm going to have to interrupt. We've run out of time. I know there are lots of questions that everyone has, but for now I'm going to have to stop this. Can we please have a huge round of applause for the May I request Vaidehi ji to please come up and felicitate our speaker?
It's reminds me of शादी. शादी में होता है ना? शादी आपकी हो रही है लेकिन बॉस कोई और है. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us today.
Sari gama